Welcome to this explainer. If you're joining us, you're likely stepping into a really exciting journey as a clinical mental health counseling master's student, specifically within a Buddhist-informed contemplative counseling cohort. Now today, we're going to do something absolutely crucial. We're going to demystify applied research and program evaluation. And look, we're not going to frame this as some dry, mathematical hurdle you just have to get over. Instead, we're going to look at it as an essential ethical extension of your contemplative counseling practice. We'll be diving closely into the foundational concepts found in the early chapters of the textbook by Barrio, Minton, and Lenz. So let's get started. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll be covering 1. Bridging art and science. 2. The ethical imperative. 3. Mapping the textbook. 4. Where evaluation meets practice. 5. Strategies for inquiry. And 6. Becoming a scientist practitioner. Starting right off with Section 1, Bridging Art and Science. So the authors point out something really fascinating. Despite our field's absolute love affair with specific, branded techniques, empirical investigation over the last half-century reveals something profound. The success of treatment is principally found in the factors that all approaches share in common. Think about that for a second. While your therapeutic technique and your ability to be deeply present matter entirely, our shared effectiveness actually relies on common, observable factors, things we can systematically evaluate. But to uncover those shared factors and to really successfully bridge the gap between the qualitative art of human connection and the rigorous science of evaluation, we need a reliable guide, right? We need a framework that respects both the hard data and the deeply complex human experience. And that reliable guide for our journey is the source textbook, Practical Approaches to Applied Research and Program Evaluation for Counselors by Barrio, Minton, and Lenz. What's really great about this text is that it's specifically designed for master's-level counselors. It's built to help you comfortably converge your clinical expertise with the best available research. Plus, it aligns perfectly with CACREP accreditation standards, making sure that what you're learning isn't just a bunch of abstract statistics, but practical everyday tools for your future clinical setting. Let's move on to Section 2, the ethical imperative. As you develop your professional identity, you are actually stepping into a role known as a scientist practitioner, which is often referred to in the literature as the Boulder model. This model integrates science as a core part of practice. Now, from a contemplative standpoint, making evidence-informed practice a priority is literally a true act of clinical compassion. It is exactly how we fulfill the fundamental vow to do no harm, by ensuring our interventions are actually helping our clients heal. Because, understanding evaluation isn't just some bureaucratic red tape you have to cut through, it's a foundational mandate. We have to guarantee our clients receive the help they deserve. In fact, the American Counseling Association's Code of Ethics explicitly requires counselors to develop plans that offer a reasonable promise of success and to use techniques grounded in a scientific foundation. That right there is exactly why research is a core curricular area for your master's preparation.
Okay, Section 3, Mapping the Textbook.
To help lower any cognitive load as we go through this, let's map out exactly where you're headed. The text is beautifully organized into 3 distinct parts, moving you gently from foundational theory all the way to practical application. Part 1 establishes the foundations, connecting research to practice and exploring how to ask the right questions. Part 2 dives into using research designs in practice, like surveying groups or understanding lived experiences. And finally, Part 3 gives you the logistical tools to put all of this evaluation into motion, like selecting assessments and actually sharing your findings. This brings us to Section 4, where evaluation meets practice. The textbook provides these fantastic, really grounded case studies to show where abstract numbers meet real human stakes. For example, looking at the stories of Maria and Paul from the text, we see the real-world impact. Maria is a clinical director for a sexual assault survivor nonprofit that's facing funding cuts. Paul is a school counselor advocating for a college readiness program for first-generation students. For both of them, program evaluation is the exact tool they use to save vital services, advocate for vulnerable populations, and prove that their programs genuinely work. The authors also advocate for a concept called methodological pluralism. Now that might sound like a mouthful, but it simply means finding the best clues by looking at the overlapping convergence of findings across multiple, different approaches to research. By valuing methodological pluralism, you can weave together diverse and equitable perspectives. Honestly, this is very much like how, in your contemplative practice, you hold space for the complex, multifaceted, and deeply nuanced lived experiences of your clients. It's about seeing the whole picture.
Next up, Section 5, Strategies for Inquiry.
The text frames inquiry as kind of like a tale of two interconnected sciences. On one side, we have applied research, which focuses on practical applications to expand our general professional knowledge base. On the other side, we have program evaluation, which acts as a science for quality improvement. This one focuses directly on assessing and improving our specific local practices. The reality is, you're going to use both of these interrelated paths throughout your entire career.
Now, both of these sciences rely heavily on the fundamental process of the scientific method. But I want you to look at this list for a second. Making keen observations, asking deep questions, testing hypotheses, and analyzing data. These are actually forms of focused mindfulness. You already practice this every single day. You're really just applying that same mindful attention to evaluating your program's outcomes.
And when you are ready to evaluate a specific program, the authors point right to the CDC framework for evaluation. This is a simple 6-step framework, from engaging your stakeholders and describing the program, all the way to justifying your conclusions and sharing the lessons learned. It provides a highly structured, remarkably calm approach to systematically gathering and sharing your insights. It takes the overwhelm right out of it.
Finally, Section 6, Becoming a Scientist Practitioner. The authors state their vision so clearly here. They envision a world where master's-level counselors wrap together art and science by bringing pieces of what we know about research directly into their everyday counseling practices and programs. Ultimately, their goal, and the goal of your coursework, is to empower you to artfully combine the best available research with your profound clinical expertise, your cultural awareness, and, of course, your deep empathy.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, vital thought to reflect on. As you move forward in your contemplative counseling journey, how will you use these tools of inquiry to fulfill your ethical responsibility and continually improve the care you provide? Because remember, evidence-informed practice isn't just a requirement you have to check off. It is the highest form of care. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you really enjoy your exploration of research and program evaluation.